Not all flight schools are created equal.
20-year-old Luke Smith wanted to be a flight instructor.
Investigators are looking into the cause of a plane crash in Gippsland last night that claimed 3 lives.
In November 2024, Luke, his 16-year-old brother Benny, and their 15-year-old cousin Dusty Daly were killed when the light aircraft Luke was piloting stalled and crashed northwest of Sale in Victoria. Lorraine had corresponded with Luke, and 2 days before the crash, along with Benny and Dusty, he had come to her flight school to have his plane weighed. It had only been purchased a week and a half before.
These are 3 beautiful young men. I met them. They stood here in my hangar. You know, they're just like my grandsons. I'm teaching one of my grandsons to fly. We don't want it to be them. We don't want it to be anybody, Norman.
The Australian Transport Safety Bureau's Chief Commissioner, Angus Mitchell, believes the accident points to significant deficiencies in the flight training system. The ATSB released its safety report into the crash in January.
It was an accident that was many months in the making. And that comes from back when the pilot was first qualified under the RAOS system and the standard of instruction that he received at the school, the standard of examination, not actually testing what needed to be tested.
The system failed Luke, in my opinion. In my strongest opinion, the system failed those 3 young men and their families.
The ATSB report found numerous shortcomings in Luke's instruction at Adventure Flight Training, or AFT, located first in Victoria, then in New South Wales. The flight school is no longer operating. Attempts to reach its former chief flying instructor were unsuccessful. To qualify as a flight instructor, candidates must pass an online exam administered by a flight school on behalf of Recreational Aviation Australia. In January 2024, Luke Smith sat that exam with his flight school, Adventure Flight Training. The flight school's online exam was multiple choice, and A was the pre-programmed default correct answer to all of the questions. Luke answered A 47 times out of 50 and scored 94%. RAAWS later remarked the exam and found Luke actually scored 26%. A month later, he took the exam again. The questions and answers were the same. He scored 76%, still short of the 80% pass mark. There are no records Luke attempted another exam. The ATSB also found crucially when it came to the risk of slow, steep turns, like the ones Luke performed when he crashed, he hadn't been adequately tested.
And particularly those fundamentals around management of energy, around angles of attack, around weight distribution, around airspeed. They're the things that really the pilot didn't have a great understanding of, and that was evident in the examination system.
The ATSB's report identified Luke Smith's risky flying behavior and counseling he received for it. In one example, the report notes 3 days before the accident, Luke took a colleague on a local private flight in the accident aircraft. Luke reportedly turned off the transponder and conducted a low-level, high-speed pass over a friend's house, followed by a roll. He then conducted a series of steep turns. The witness told the ATSB the angle of bank felt like 70 to 75 degrees, which they described as knife-edge stuff.
You know, like they've bought an aeroplane together and, you know...
At her flight training school, Lorraine McGilvery believes the issue wasn't so-called risky flying by Luke, it was lack of adequate instruction.
If you taught to fly properly and you have those skills, then orbiting over a point is not risky behaviour. It becomes risky when you don't have the skills or the knowledge base to be able to make it safe.
Luke Smith's flight school, AFT, was accredited by Recreational Aviation Australia, RAAWS. It registers 3,500 planes and has 160 affiliate flight schools nationwide. Michael Monk is the organization's chair.
We were aware of some issues that became evident with that school prior to the accident. We took actions to address those actions or the lack of training or the potential deficiencies in his training that he received. We took actions to address that. The instructor involved is no longer operational with RAAWS.
Monk says RA Oz is in the process of improving the way online exams are administered, so RA Oz controls the online exam as opposed to the flight school. He says RA Oz has a good record of making sure flight schools do the right thing. One crash, he says, doesn't mean the system is broken.
Drawing such a broad conclusion from a single accident, I would argue, is not good practice. We need to understand what these issues are rather than making broad, sweeping statements that just create headlines.
But the ATSB's Angus Mitchell says the lesson from this crash is unmistakable, and it goes beyond one school or one pilot.
They do need some really positive oversight to all of the flight training schools, regular audit type functions to make sure what is being instructed is correct, it is being understood by students, and then when the examination process is due, pilots are being examined on the things they need to understand in the air. It's not a tick-the-box exercise. It is there to keep people and to keep pilots and their passengers safe.
I have a question for you. Even if a young pilot or older pilot receives adequate flight training, how do you prevent these pilots from conducting reckless maneuvers?